everyone, welcome back to another video about Star Wars Unlimited Shadows of the Galaxy. It's just around the corner. This is the final main part of my set review. The next video will be a tier list, and I'll also talk about the hero, villainy, and generic cards there, because a few of them are quite relevant, but I didn't want to make that its own video. Who's going to watch that? Let's go ahead and jump right into it. If you're seeing this on Patreon, by the way, thank you so much for your support. If you're not, my patrons have had this for a couple of weeks. I put 2 guides up there a month, most months, between One Piece and Star Wars Unlimited. So it'll probably, this month, as you're seeing this, will be One Piece, but July, set 2, that's going to be a Star Wars month, for sure. And maybe, probably August as well. Yeah, check it out. Would appreciate the support. Let's jump into the video. Here we go. Cad Bane. We're starting with the leaders, and guys, I just want to, yellow, pretty good. Yellow's pretty good. You don't need to keep making them so good. It's okay to get make the other colors as good. That's fine. It's okay. Just a little sidebar between you and me, right? Let's keep going. Cad Bane is really good. I'm going to say this now. It's not Boba Fett, okay? It's not Boba. It's fine. We can do other things, okay? There's a different deck to Boba. It doesn't have to be Boba. But, I mean, come on. So, Cad Bane is actually very good, though. So, when you play an Underworld card, spoiler, the whole deck is Underworld, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, your opponent chooses a unit they control and deal 1 damage to it. So, obviously, that's not fantastic that your opponent gets to choose, but it's okay. Deploys on 6, has Raid 2 on a 2/8 body. So there's a 4/8 coming out on 6. Now, not really a 4/8. There is limit there. Now, okay, when does that Raid 2 matter? So when does not having the stats matter? The stats matters for cards like Overwhelming Barrage and for being defensively attacking back. Okay, fine. So it's slightly worse. Attacking, it's a 4/8. 8 is big. 8 is very big. And 8 is actually a threshold that being able to reach is now going to be very, very challenging. Because we had ways to reach 7. As far as I'm aware, there are very few ways, and they're like kind of janky, to like just instantly like wipe out a Cad Bane, right? Like it's telegraphed. If it's possible, you'll see it coming, right? Anyway, when you play an Underworld card, you may choose an opponent. They choose a unit they control, deal 2 damage to it, use this ability only once per round. So this is really powerful, guys. Like I want to emphasize here, right? Like this ability alone is like crazy. You do this with Tarkin Town, you just get to nuke anything, and then you're just cooking from there. This is going to be very, very good with just claiming bounties, forcing your opponents to just make really awful decisions most of the time. You know, there's never going to be a card they're that happy about, like, dealing damage to, right? Like, fundamentally, they kind of don't want to do it at all. So if they're losing a cheap unit, well, that's losing a body on the ground, and if they're dealing some damage to a big unit, well, that's making it easier for me to kill. So, yeah. I think this is really, really strong. I think this is a fantastic leader. I think there's some very good cards to support it. I think Underworld and Bounty Hunter are traits that are going to be extremely relevant in this set. And yeah, keep an eye out. This is a very good leader. You're going to be seeing this play for sure. Next, we've got Dr. Aphra, and this is another good leader. I think we're less likely to see this play immediately, but I do think there is a lot of potential here. So, when the regroup phase starts, discard a card from your deck. So you mill each turn, basically, and that will happen from turn 1. You deploy on 5. If there are 5 or more different costs among card in your discard pile, this gets +3/+0. And then when deployed, choose 3 cards in your discard pile with different names. If you do, return 1 of them at random to your hand. So fundamentally, this is very good, right? Like, you know, it's a 5/5 for 5. Very easily, it's 5/5/5. Now, the difficulty is on resource 5. Are you going to be able to make it a 5/5? That might be challenging, but realistically, I think you just probably deploy this later. I think you wait until you're getting max value out of it. You wait until your drop is set up with 3 really good cards you just want. Fundamentally, it just says draw a card. Like, it's pretty good, but draw a really good card that your card you know is going to be really good. Like, kind of gives you the 4th copy of some cards. I think this is a lot of potential. You know, great color combo, great stats, really good ability. It's not Boba, but it's not trying to be Boba. I think this is definitely like a much later game deck than Boba is. And I'm very interested to see where this deck goes. I'm definitely, this is one of those ones where I'm going to sit back and I'm going to let other people do the brewing, because it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of man hours, I think, to make this card, to make this leader good. But when it happens, it's going to happen, right? So yeah, very excited to see where this leader goes. Definitely a good leader. Fennec Shans, this is an interesting one. So this basically, you pay 1 to just ambush something, but it costs 4 or less. This deploys on 5. And then it has Saboteur, and then you get that action for free to just play a 4 or less and give it ambush. So how good is this leader? The stats, a 4/4 for 5 is not good. So I think you know, it sucks a bit that they've really nerfed the stats on this card. It's not great. The Saboteur is good. Fundamentally, Ambush is a really powerful ability. Powerful enough to pay 1 for? Yes, absolutely. But if that's the only thing my deck is doing, now I really need to like, okay, but how good are the cards I'm ambushing here? I don't know that Yellow Hero has that many really good cards you want to be ambushing in. Like, it's a very powerful effect. I think it's just going to be one of those things where, like, you know, firstly, if you're against hard control, like, what you're playing a vanilla leader, and a bad vanilla leader at that, so, okay. You instantly lose to hard control. This obviously seems like it's very well suited for the aggro matchups if you're just ambushing in stuff every single turn, but also, guys, Yellow kind of has a ambush curve anyway. Like, we're going to see the cards here as we go through, but like, they filled out the ambush curve, so I don't know. I don't know that you really need this, and I think there's a better hero Yellow leader in the set anyway, which we'll come on to in a moment. So we've got Lando. This is an interesting one. So the action is to play a card using Smuggle. It costs 2 less, defeat a resource you own and control. And then deploy comes out on 4, he's a 2/5, and it's the exact same. So I think this is the same stats as Sabine. So this is an interesting one, and I think this is going to be exactly as good as the good Smuggles that exist. Right now, I think you really do have to high roll, but I think when you do high roll, right, like on turn 3, when you shit out like a Millennium Falcon with Ambush, you deploy Lando, and then the next turn you go back up to 4 resources and you just start spamming like these huge things out. You don't really care about having a hand because, like, you know, your hand can just be pump cards basically because like you're playing stuff out of Smuggle and you're cheating things out. If you're able to go fast enough, right, like you can imagine the curve, right? Like I think, you know, I think there is a lot of potential here. You know, turn 1 play a 3/2 ship, turn 2 play a Falcon, and then turn 3 start smuggling, right? Like this is a very powerful curve. You're going into space. It's very hard to interact with. I think it's really, really good. But it's inconsistent. So my inclination is this to be a middle of the pack leader unless we get some really, really good bounties moving forward. Sorry, Smuggles moving forward. And I suspect they're going to be very careful with how good they make Smuggle. The final leader is a starter deck leader here, the Mandalorian. This is one of the leaders I'm most excited for in this set. I don't know if I'm evaluating it slightly higher as well because I just really like the character, so I'm trying to be objective here, but this is... So when you play an upgrade, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, exhaust an enemy unit with 4 or less remaining HP. That's a pretty high... That's a pretty easy bar to meet in the early game. I think only really from resource 4 onwards, like, can you start... Your opponent might start playing units that are outside of that. This can hit leaders as well, which is relevant, but when you deploy on 6... When you play an upgrade, you may exhaust an enemy unit with 6 or less remaining HP, and that's hitting almost everything. So this is really interesting, and there's some very powerful support tools, which we'll come to for this deck. But fundamentally, good stats, good traits, good abilities. You know, there's support here for the leader. You know, that I think there's potential here. I think it's going to be a really solid tempo leader. It's nice to finally see Hero Yellow get something that isn't hard, right? Like get a new playstyle that isn't just like this, oh, ramping resource or whatever. Like no, this is like just playing good Star Wars. Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty excited for this card. I think there's a lot of potential here. Okay, on to the actual cards away from the leaders. So we start with Kintan Intimidator. This is a 1/4 with on attack exhaust the defender. I get it, but I just don't think this is that good. My inclination is this isn't very good. This seems more like a draft card that you kind of just play for curve, but I mean, it's a 1-drop, it's a 1/4, it's underworld traded, hangs around, so there's potential. Clears Greedo, I guess. I don't know. I don't think it's great. I'd always rather have a Greedo, right? Bazinatal, this card is our first card of so many broken cards. So this is a 2-drop, 1/3, when play, look at your opponent's hand, discard a card, the player draws a card, and you can smuggle it in for 4. Every hero villain in your deck is playing this card. You're probably going to side it in a lot of hero cunning as well. Cunning villainy is what I would say, but you're going to side this in hero cunning as well for sure. Guys, fundamentally, if I'm just looking at your hand and I either discard the 1 card you had that you had to play that turn, or I discard an absolute bomb which you need to see in the matchup, or I discard like a really good card, I don't care that you're drawing. The odds of you drawing something anywhere near as good as the card I just discarded are very low. This card is cracked. I don't care that it's 1 attack. It's insane. I always want to be playing this card. This is the most ridiculous turn 1 play. And then later in the game, when I know I have lethal on board, I just need to hit the 1 thing that stops the lethal, I just go, cool, smuggle, yeah, it's gone, and I win now. Ridiculous. Insanely good. Next, we've got Dr. Evazan, another crazy card. This is a 2-drop 3/3 shielded with a bounty to ready up to 12 resources. So obviously, if your opponent is ever able to claim this bounty and get even reasonable value out of it, it's nuts. But a 2/3/3 shielded is so good. realistically, I think this is a Boba Green card and nothing else. I don't really know that, like, because in Boba Green, you can ECL this in on turn 1, instantly kill something, and then just kind of wait until your opponent plays something else on the ground, and then just trade it, right? Like, trade it immediately, or like you can swing 3 in, and then your opponent plays something to the ground, and the next turn you just throw this in before they play anything. That's the way in which this might make sense. But, you know, outside of decks that are playing ECL, I think this is actually a card that might be very punishing, so I'm sort of iffy on it. Because, I mean, yeah, that is that can be a game-swinging, bounty if your opponent's able to claim it. So I'll be very careful with this card, but, yeah. And there's cards we'll see that could interact with this. So this is a card you have to be very careful with, but it's insanely powerful, fundamentally, right? Next, we've got Hunter of the Haxion Brood. This is a 4/3. While an enemy has a bounty, this unit gains shielded. So any deck that cares about playing bounty, a 4/3 shielded for 3 is ridiculous. In particular, the first one I'm thinking of is Jabba, because Jabba just guarantees there will be a bounty on units at all times. So this is a broken card in Jabba. In other decks, I think there is a lot of space in the 3-drop. There's a lot of very powerful cards in that 3-drop. So obviously, we have Boba Fett from set 1, but we're going to go through and there's so many good 3-drops in this set, in Cunning, that is this good enough to see play unless you are basically guaranteed the shielded? I don't think so. If it's coming in shielded for sure, then yes, this probably takes the slot. But if it's not, I don't know. Now, if you're playing lots and lots of 3-drops, it's a different conversation. But yeah, this is a very good card there. Lurking TIE Phantom, another crazy 3-drop. This is a 2/2, but it has Raid 2, and it can't be captured, damaged, or defeated by enemy card abilities. And so I think a deck that, like, you know, Boba Yellow is going to... This replaces the 7th Fleet Defender for sure, because it's a 4/2 on attack, so you're able to hit Falcon, right? Like, you can trade Falcon if you need to. So Boba Green will play this too. And being able to trade Falcon is massive. Obviously, if they don't clear this in response, which they could do. But, you know, ECL. And then, secondly, it can't get Power of the Dark-Sided. Like, you just turn off Power of the Dark Side, because you can always just choose this. And that's crazy. So I think this is a huge power buff to those decks, because it's just a straight upgrade to a card they're already playing. You know, like, the situations, like yes, it doesn't have 3 attack on defense. That is a bit of an L, but I think the W's you get are so vastly outweighing that it doesn't matter. Alright, next up, we have got Forlom. This is another ridiculous card. So this is a 4-drop 4/4 ambush. Each friendly unit named Zuckuss gains +1/+1 and ambush. So we'll talk about Zuckuss later, but I just want to say, like, before we were playing a situational Sentinel, and it was actually shockingly good. Now we have a card that actually does something. So good, so good. 3 of every deck that's playing. Like, I think this is your new 4-drop, right? Like, you just play this card. It's ridiculously good. And we don't even talk about Zuckuss, but, like, we'll talk about Zuckuss in a bit. Slaver's Freighter is a 5/4/5. When played, you can ready another unit with power equal to or less than the number of upgrades on enemy units. I think this is bad. Unless, like, it's super niche, right? So, Zuckuss. This is a 5/6/6. Really good stats. Saboteur. Each friendly unit named Forlom gains +1/+1 and gains Saboteur. So, Zuckuss is also crazy, right? Like, fundamentally, a 6/6, it's sticky, it's hanging around, and it can just close out games. The worst case scenario here is you miss Zuckuss, or you play Zuckuss and it demands an answer immediately. Sorry, Forlom. And then you just play Zuckuss and you have a 6/6. Fine, right? Like, it's not the end of the world. It's not the best. It's not great, but it's not awful. The upside here is you maintain the Forlom, and suddenly this is a 7/7 ambush saboteur. So you just kill anything, right? You basically just kill anything, which is outrageously good. Like genuinely outrageously good. So yeah, I think this is a card that is absolutely going to see play. This is really, really powerful. Stats matter, especially in decks that are just trying to kill you. And yeah, being able to ECL this in, being able to, like, so you're always going to get value out of this in Boba Green. In Boba Yellow, it's just a 6/6 that's going to, like, end the game. Yeah, I think, like, and that's not even talking about Cad Bane and all these other decks, but yeah, this card's crazy. Definitely going to see play. Xanadu Blood. This is Cad Bane's Fire Spray, except nowhere near as good. It's a 6/4/6 with Raid 2, so it's a 6/6 situationally. When played and on attack, you may return another friendly non-leader unbound unit to its own hand. If you do, exhaust an enemy unit or resource. This is a really good ability. Again, if you can ECL this in, you're cooking, right? But Yeah, I think this is just crazy good. You're probably never saving your ECL for this, but yeah, like super strong. Exhausting resources is a really broken effect. Exhausting units is a really broken effect. You can return like stuff, like things that have ambush that you've like gotten the value out of, for example, right to your hand and then just do them again. Super good card. Like, yeah, definitely going to see play. Next, we have got Dryden Voss, another crazy card. This is a 7-drop, 5/7 shielded. When played, choose a captured card guarded by unit control. Play it for free under your control. So this is insane, right? If you ever are able to set this up and get the value out of it, it doesn't really matter what you're playing out of it. It's such a ridiculous tempo swing because you've stolen one of your opponent's cards. You get it under your control. It costs you nothing. This is a 5/7 shielded for 7. That's good, right? Like, that's absolutely good. So I think the question is going to be, how often are you actually going to be able to get value out of this card? And that's going to require testing. But one deck I think you're absolutely playing this for sure at 3 of is Java Yellow. Like, my god. Come on. Perfect synergy, right? Next, we have got Frozen in Carbonite. This is an interesting card. So you pay 3 for this, attach it to a non-leader unit. The attached unit can't ready, and then when played, you exhaust the attached unit. So basically, this is no good to me dead, but like permanent for non-leaders. I don't think this card is that good. It's a very expensive upgrade. There's going to be a lot of upgrade hate in this set, and you can't hit leaders with it. And honestly, I'd say 70 to 80% of the utility of No Good to Me Dead was hitting leaders. So I think this is a bad card. I think it's a bait. Next, we've got Triple Dark Raid. This is crazy. So 3, search top 7 for a vehicle, play it, it costs 5 less, and then just play ready, and then you bounce it at the end of the phase. Something to bear in mind is if you, a new adventure, this card, which we'll talk about in a bit, but basically if you bounce it and replay it with a new adventure, and you get to keep it in play, as far as I understand. So, yeah, just crazy. Yeah, on a 5 resource turn, you can do some really nonsense stuff. On a 6 resource turn, you can also do some really nonsense stuff. So for 4 resources, you basically get to play a Fire Spray, or you get to play a Xanadu Blood or something, and you just get the value, and then they bounce, but again, with, you know, a new adventure, you get to keep them. I think you have to build around this card. I don't think you can just throw it in, but I don't think you have to build around it that hard for it to be really good. So yeah, I think this is a super, super powerful card. And I think in particular it's going to be better in things like Cad Bane, because like, your Fire Spray wasn't untapping anyway in that deck, but you're also playing Xanadu, which is going to have a load of synergy, so you're already playing 6 ships that are really, really good, add in a couple other ones, and, you know, suddenly, you know, you're fine. I mean, I'm fine paying 3 for this and getting a 3-drop ship out. Like, that's totally fine. It's coming in active. That's good. I'm getting value. I don't mind, right? So, yeah. And then you can just bounce it back with like, with like a McClunky or something. And, you know, there's stuff you can do. Next, we got Cartel Turncoat. This is a 1-drop 2/3 bounty draw card. I think this is going to be great in aggro decks, and they're definitely going to want to play it. Next, we have got Grogu. This is a 2-drop 0/5 action exhaust enemy unit. This is super fucking annoying. It's a force-traded unit, so you can slap a lightsaber on it, which is hilarious if you play blue. And I think there's a lot of potential for this card, but against aggro, this is just going to be a fucking nightmare card, because you just sit there and every turn go, yep, nope, yep, nope, yep, nope, nope, yep. Like, you know, your worst case scenario is like, you don't get any value out of it on the turn after you play it. Like, that's your worst case scenario, right? If you don't have initiative. But then, like, when the opponent's leader deploys, you're always going to be able to use this, like, unless your opponent exhausts it somehow. Or it soaks up 5 damage. And if it soaks up 5 damage against aggro, you're super okay with that. Yeah, I don't know. This just seems crazy good. The fact that it hits any enemy unit is so good. Next up, we have got L337. So this is a 2/2. When played, you may rescue a captured card if you don't give a shield token to this unit. So it's basically a 2/2 shielded. So it's basically a smuggler. I forgot the name from set 1, but it also has smuggle. So I think, yeah, like, this is a strictly better version of that for hero, right? Like, because you might rescue something, it has better traits, and you can smuggle it in if you need to. So yeah, this will replace the smuggler. Next up, we've got Omega. This is a 2/2. Ignore the aspect penalty on the first clone you play each round. Search top 5 for a clone, reveal it, and draw it when played. Let's wait till set 3. Next, we've got Coruscant Dissident. This is a 3/3/4. On attack, you may ready a resource. I think this has potential. 3/5 is pretty much the going rate now, but 3/4 is not that much worse. And being able to ready a resource, like we've seen with Boba Effect how good that is. So could be worth bearing in mind how this card could suddenly enable some very, very silly play. So we'll have to keep an eye out. Next, we've got Kira. This is a 4-drop, 3/5. Look at your opponent's hand, name a card when this unit is in play. Each card with that name costs 3 more for your opponent to play. So this is like, it's not as good as discarding, right? It's not as good as like, you know, Regional Governor, but it's functionally Regional Governor, right? Like, I mean, if something costs 3 more, it's basically not getting played. It's got pretty good stats. It's a 3/5. You know, I feel like it's a little overcost. If this was a 3-drop, I'd be like, oh my god, play this card. As a 4-drop, it's like, you probably do play this, but I think it's a slightly more iffy choice. Next up, we've got Zori Bliss. So this is a 5-drop for 7, smuggles for 6, draw a card at the start of the regroup phase, discard a card from your hand. So obviously, this is one of those cards that synergizes really well with Lando, because you play this out for 4 and then you defeat the resource, and on your 4 resource turn, playing a 4/7 plus deploying your leader is such a swing that, like, this is the sort of level you need to have, and then you just keep, like, pumping out like crazy cards, right? Alright, next we've got Millennium Falcon, another card perfect for the Lando decks. This is a 6/5/5. If you play it from your hand against ambush, or if you smuggle it in, it's just a 5/5. So again, another one of these cards for Lando that's really, really good. Next, we've got Let the Wookiee Win. Your opponent chooses one. You ready up to 6 resources, or you ready a friendly unit, and if it's a Wookiee, attack with it and it gains +2/+0 for the attack. I think this is actually a really good card, because your opponent's never going to let you ready 6 resources, right? So you just get to attack with a unit again. That's pretty good. So yeah, I think this is going to see play. Next, we've got Spare the Target. So this is Waylay, except for Hero, strictly better because you also get the unit's bounties. So this is a strict replacement for Waylay in Hero decks. Next, we've got a new adventure. So our first double cunning card. Return a non-leader unit that costs 6 or less to return its hand, then its owner may play it for free. This is one of the most versatile cards I've ever seen. So obvious synergies. Fire Spray, you get to attack again. No Good to Me Dead, you basically undo the No Good to Me Dead effect. On something that isn't a leader. On your opponent's units, you just flush away all of the upgrades. If you have powerful on plays, you get to redo them. Just this card is so versatile, it's so good. I can't see you playing less than 2 copies of this in every double yellow deck. Next, we got Final Showdown. So ready each unit you control at the start of the regroup phase, you lose the game. So I think this card is unbelievable. I think this is probably the card being slept on most in the entire set. I think I'm happy playing 8 for this. I'm happy paying 10 for this even. Probably, like, you know... But realistically, I think, you know, if you're playing yellow, you should play this card. I think either 1 of or 2 of. I think you can do it. And I think if you're playing double yellow, this is, like, so much, like, so threatening in aggro decks. And its existence alone, right? Like, you don't even need to play it. Your opponent has to play around you playing it, right? Like, that your opponent has to make the choice between playing around this or playing around, like, a Fire Spray, for example. And both can just win you the game, right? If they make the wrong decision, you just go, cool, Fire Spray, swing, and they go, oh, I'm cooked. Whereas, like, you know, if they choose to play around the Fire Spray, then you just go, okay, cool, Final Showdown, GG. And you're never playing this first action, right? This is the beautiful part. You're just going swing, 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 swing. You're using 3, 4 actions before you even get to this card. So you have so much time in the phase to basically determine whether or not it's worth playing this card. I think it is crazy. I think it is ridiculous that this card is not being super hyped. I think this is going to be the first card I see spike in set 2. I think this is going to be like a $10 card on release, or a $5 card even, and it's going to be like a $30 card, like, quickly. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm cooked, but I think this card is unreal. Next, we've got Criminal Muscle. So this is a 1-drop 2/1. When played, you return a non-unique upgrade to its owner's hand. I think this is bad. It's a 1-drop Underworld, so you might see play because of that. Cloud Rider, this is crazy. Boba Green, any mid-rangey leaning control deck is just going to slam this in. It's a 3/1 ambush, so you just clear pretty much anything on the ground for 2. Super good. Or in Boba Green for 1. Yay! Yeah, this card's crazy. Next, we've got Fugitive Wookiee. This is a 2/3/3 with a bounty to exhaust a unit. I think depending on the deck you're playing this in, that is going to be worth it. But that is a pretty hefty bounty, so, you know, got to be careful. And honestly, like, I feel like I'd rather just Cloud Rider, right? Like, in most situations, like, I don't care that I'm losing the unit. And Cloud Rider's Underworld traded too. Privateer Sick. This is a 2/2. If you control another yellow unit, it's shielded. So a Smuggler in space for 2 is pretty good, but I mean, you can't turn 1 that, so iffy. Next, we have got Frontier Trader. So this is a 2/2. When played, you may return a resource you control to its own hand. If you do, you may put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. Probably not going to play this card. Like, I doubt you play this card. Smuggler Starfighter, a 3/2. When played, if you control another underworld, give it a unit -3/-0 for the phase, and you can smuggle it in. I think this is bad. Chain Code Collector, I think this is also bad because Forlom exists. I mean, it's fine, but like, too bounty. I think there's better cards. You're probably not playing this. Tobias Beckett, this is a 4/5. When you play a non-unit card, you may exhaust a unit that costs the same as or less than the card you played. And you can use this ability once each round. So 4/4/5 is good stats. You can smuggle it in for 5 and a blue, so you can play this in blue. I think this is a good card. I think this card is solid. Next, we have got Resourceful Pursuers. This is a 5/6 Saboteur. I think this is chaff. Enfeed's Nest. This is a 6-drop 5/4 ambush. While a friendly unit is attacking with ambush, the defender gets -3/-0. So this is essentially a 5/7 when ambushing. I think this is a very powerful card. Do not sleep on this. This is going to give control decks like a lot of versatility and just being able to take out like really powerful stuff. Hilariously, Cloud Rider can actually survive with an Enfeed's Nest on board. Yeah, I think, you know, this is a great card. The big issue is going to be space. But I definitely think I could see this card seeing a good amount of play. Next, we've got Fennec Shan. This is a 7/4/5 with ambush. On attack, deal 1 damage to the defender. For each, if it's a unit, for each different cost among cards in your discard pile. I think this is a little bit too late for what you want to be doing. I mean, there's so many powerful 7-drops, but maybe the sees play in mono yellow, but it wouldn't be like an aggro deck. It would need to be like a mono yellow, like control-y deck. So, I don't know. I'm a little iffy on this card. It basically does just nuke something, though. And then we come to our upgrades. We've got Wanted, attaching against Bounty, untap 2, probably bad. Next, we got Boba Fett's Armor. I don't know why they printed this card. It's a 2-drop 2/2, which if the attached unit is Boba Fett and damage will be dealt to him, you prevent 2 of that damage. So, okay. I don't know that you play this, but like, if you do, you play this in Boba, right? Like, maybe this is good enough to see play in Boba. I personally doubt it, but it's a crazy, stupid card. I don't know why they printed it. I just think, like, the Boba deck plays so many broken cards that you can't really justify this. Unrefusable Offer. So this is a 2-drop 0. Attach unit gains Bounty. Play this unit for free. It enters the play ready at the start of the regroup phase. Defeat it. So my inclination with this card is it's like really hard to get a lot of value out of, but I don't know. Maybe Boba Green plays this card. Maybe Cad Bane plays this card. Maybe like Bosk Yellow plays this card. Like, stealing a unit for the phase and just getting to swing with it is really powerful, right? Like, let's not get that twisted. And, you know, you can then use that unit to then start clearing your opponent's other units. So, I don't know. I think there is potential here. It is also a top 8 showdown promo, which makes me think, like, this must be better than it reads, because there's no way they would have made, like, a top 8 promo a really bad card. Like, it would need to be a card that's genuinely, like, decent. So, I'm going to experiment with this. I think, like, Cad Bane and Bosk may really like this card. Boba might. Doubtful Boba will, but maybe Boba does. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's potential with this card, though. I don't think it's bad. It's just situational. Look the other way. Exhaust a unit unless the controller plays 2. I think this is very good. I think this is being slept on. I think you're happy. You play this. This is like I'm Your Father, right? You only play this in a situation where you are happy with both outcomes, and you know, against aggro, basically, you are happy with both outcomes. You use one action, and you either force your opponent to have like significantly less resources, like 2 at any stage in the at the beginning of the game is too many, or you neuter some of the aggro to some extent. I think this is very good. I think you know, maybe it's only sideboard, but I definitely think there's potential in this card. I think it's being very slept on. Next, we got McClunky. This card's ridiculous. Bounce an Underworld, deal 3 to a unit. This card's free in Boba. This card's just stupid. This is so good. It's outrageously good. Next, we got Swoop Down. This is another crazy card. Attack with a space unit against Saboteur. It can attack ground units. And if it attacks a ground unit, it gains 2 and the defender loses 2. So this is ridiculous. You just get to nuke anything, basically. Like, yeah, and your ship almost always survives. Like, Swoop Down on the raid 2 ship, you're like swooping down for 6 and the opponent's probably not killing you back. It's just ridiculous. Like, this card's very strong. Again, it's just a space consideration, right? Like, do you have space? Relentless Pursuit, another crazy card. Choose a friendly unit. It captures an enemy non-leader unit that costs the same as or less than it, and if it's a bounty hunter, you give it a shield token. So this is very good, in particular in the decks that are playing bounty hunter leaders, so Cad Bane, Bossk, and Boba. This is basically replacing Waylay in those decks because these are like tempo decks, right? So you don't really care about like dealing with super late game stuff because you're trying to win before the super late game. Or like, you know, if your opponent plays down a massive ship, you don't really care because you're kind of like trying to win that turn. Yeah, I think this just like captures it. Your opponent like is forced to kind of just deal with it. You give a shield as well. Like that's very strong. So yeah, I don't know. I'm quite high on this card. I think it's very, very good. Then we've got Evacuate. It's just bounce everything. I think this is another very good legendary. It's going to see play in those control decks. The Jabba yellows, the Palp yellows. I think this is a great card. Okay, that's not quite it. Then we've also got Enticing Reward. Attach unit against bounty. Search for the top 10 cards of your deck for 2 non-unit cards. Reveal them and draw them. So can I just say, this card in Bossk is fucking crazy, right? For 1, draw 4. Yes, please. Even in like any other deck, this is super, super strong. Like 2 non-unit cards. Like, what? Like in the decks that are playing this, that's going to be so many cards. You're going to have no issues securing that. And then bounty posting, search your deck for a bounty upgrade, reveal it and draw it, and you may play that upgrade. So this is another ridiculously good card in those decks that are based on bounties because you guarantee the exact bounty you need. You don't even have to play it as well if you need to wait for your opponent to do something. You just want to guarantee it in your hand. You deck thin. I don't know. I think this is good. I think both these cards are really solid. Then next we've got these are all red cards. Oh yeah, Liberated Slave. So this is a 3/5 hero. So yep, you play this card in hero. It's good stats. And then we've got Jetpack. Attached to a non-vehicle unit. When played, give a shield token to the attached unit. And at the start of the regroup phase, defeat that token. I mean, realistically, you're getting the value out of that token immediately. This is fine. I'm doubtful it's that good. Recording this slightly later, I forgot to talk about this card. So DJ is the last legendary for yellow. It's interesting. It's a 3/3/5, and I think purely based on that, it's probably going to see play. But it also has Smuggle for 7 and double yellow. When played using Smuggle, take control of an enemy resource. When this unit leaves play, that resource's owner takes control of it. So this is interesting. I think the utility of this is basically fairly limited. I think like 7 and double yellow is such a hefty cost. I don't really know what decks are going to be able to make best use out of this. Besides like, I guess Lando, right? Like Lando smuggles out if you do double yellow Lando. This costs 5 with the cheat out effect, but you basically don't lose the resource, and you can actually defeat. I think you can defeat the resource you steal with this smuggle, so you don't lose a resource, and your opponent won't be able to gain it back, and that could be powerful. But by and large, I think this is just a vanilla 3/5. Maybe we'll see utility end up showing up in the future for this card, but there we go. And then we got Principal Outlaw, 4/4 on attack, exhaust a ground unit, and you smuggle it in for 6. Probably not good enough for. I mean, you probably play it in Lando, but you kind of have to. And there we go. That is it for all of the Cunning cards. I've got to say, I'm really, really excited about Cunning. I think it's just a crazy color. I think it's got so many busted tools. I can't wait to start brewing. Yeah, Cad Bane looks really fun. Boba looks insane. Yeah. Very, very excited. The Mandalorian looks really, really fun too. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Are there any cards you think I was wrong on? Let me know. And what leader are you most excited for? Please do let me know. I'm very excited for Shadows of the Galaxy. So just a reminder, upcoming content, there'll be a tier list, and then I'll also talk about the villainy, hero, and generic cards in that video. I'll do a drafting like video, just talking about that going into, a sealed video going into pre-release, and then I'll do some pre-release unboxings, and then I'll do a case opening live stream on set release in like 3 weeks or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whenever it is on that Friday. I'll schedule that so you'll see it, and you can come join as I crack open a case and then buy a lot of singles. But there we go, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Cheers.